The EU has supported many reform activities in the Western Balkans during the last 2 decades. Despite this, addressing reforms in the rule of law, fundamental rights and good governance remains the most pressing issue for the Western Balkans and a great concern for the global community. The Western Balkans continue to face major challenges in the area of the rule of law. This is particularly true for law enforcement institutions tasked with fighting organized crime and terrorism. The overall objective of the project is to support institutions in the Western Balkans in overcoming barriers to their path on EU accession and enable them to arrest or prosecute criminals in line with EU rules and regulations.
A regional integrated threat assessment has been drafted, aimed at defining criminal threats and trends in the region, but also affecting the European continent. As for the interoperability, a new operations room will be established in Montenegro, a result to which the German GIZ and the Italian Ministry of the Interior have jointly contributed. In addition, I will mention the support given in Albania for the placement of the Secure Information Exchange Network application to be used by the Special Prosecution Office for Anti-Corruption and by the National Bureau of Investigation, and for the connection of the National Interpol Service to the automated fingerprint information system. Furthermore, I will cite the great contribution given to the defining of rules and to set up of equipment for the single point of contact for Europol in Bosnia and Herzegovina, behind all the other initiatives carried out to support all the countries in their advancement to fully interoperable systems. Lastly, I think that it is worth mentioning the average arrests made by the fugitive arrest search team units, easily demonstrating their increasing performance in terms of operational activities and in terms of a common standardized approach.
We bring police expertise together from our Italian colleagues from the Ministry of Interior, and then we also have the whole prosecution side, which is from the Center for International Legal Cooperation. But then, of course, GIZ also provides the coordination of all, and we provide also input on with our legal advisors, which brings the national context in. I think one important aspect is that we do not sell a German model or a Dutch model or an Italian model. We tailor our support to our beneficiaries according to what they need. And we work also in this respect, we work with a wide range of international partners, but also with our beneficiaries together, that we address exactly the need, what they need. It's not driven by us or by the EU, it's driven from the beneficiaries. And we also are flexible. We can also provide ad hoc input. Also, we are an operational project. This does not mean we carry out investigations or pre-investigations, but we use real cases as a vehicle in order to provide necessary input. And we do this with a wide range of instruments. We have, on a strategic level, we have advisory functions, we build them in networks, but also when we use real cases, we use them on coaching, on the job training, where our colleagues from the police, the legal advisors, and the prosecutors are important advisors. And then we also facilitate and link to EU agencies as we see when there's training needed. We validate that, for example, for CPO, or when the training needs are mapped from ISG, we provide the analysis and also the link to the beneficiaries.
Operational support aims to strengthen the operational capabilities of Western Balkan law enforcement and security authorities to fight serious and organized crime and terrorism.
And our role is to be in charge of the group of the EU resident prosecutors. And those people are embedded in the respective prosecution offices in the countries of the Western Balkans, like for instance the SPO under the SPAC structure and in Albania, or the SPRK in Kosovo, or the the state prosecutor office in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And they are sitting with their colleagues and they give them daily advice, they coach them, they build capacities, and they help them to run the investigations against organized crime groups. There are many cases, for instance, in the area of drug trafficking, where really organized crime gangs could be dismantled, where large quantities of drugs, but also illegally gained financial means could be confiscated. But also in the past we had cases where, for instance, a mobile gang of people who were doing burglaries could be stopped, and where even some of the stolen goods from houses in EU countries could be given back to the victims. And I find that very rewarding. But I think most rewarding is if we can help to build capacities to fight crimes like, for instance, THB or exploitation of people. And now the Commission wants to specifically focus on migrant smuggling and THB against the increasing figures of illegal migration into EU. And don't forget, 90%, Europol says it in one of their reports, 90% of the migrants that come into the European Union are helped by smugglers.
Strategic cooperation aims to support the relevant authorities to effectively participate in and contribute to EU and intra-regional cooperation structures and assessments.
I discern different layers of connecting people and organizations, building bridges. First of all, and this is a matter of maturity, I have very skilled and professional colleagues, but they are not already used to work with their own national institutions. I give you an example. Sometimes in a criminal investigation, you may need, especially when it has a financial component, you need to have information from accountants or from real estate agents, because people invest their illegal money in real estate. And they are not really accustomed to opening doors with those institutions. Then, at a regional level, building bridges means that you rely on best examples, for instance, from Montenegro in Albania. So why inventing the wheel when your neighbor has a very good example? That's the second layer. The third layer is the European level. So that means I help them, for instance, with, quite simply, with contacts of prosecutors in other European countries. We work shoulder to shoulder with boots on the ground, and this operational connection, talking about your own experience with likewise cases, made our project, I believe, very successful. And of course, if you are new, you have to build up trust and authority, and it helps that we have actually in each of the 6 Western Balkan countries a very mature, experienced and knowledgeable prosecutors, and that has been, I think, quite successful. If I look at the outcomes, how they now work in comparison with how they worked when I entered into this project 2 years ago, I see a huge improvement.
The interoperability of information systems aims to increase the capabilities of Western Balkan law enforcement and security authorities to exchange information.
The final objective is the EU accession, and we support the beneficiaries on their way there. Of course, this is a very difficult and complex process where we support them in Chapter 23 and 24 on very specific issues. We look at the theory of change, we look at the strategic approach, and then we work together with the beneficiaries in order to make that sustainable. We are also looking at a sustainability strategy where we discuss also with other projects to take over some of the responsibilities. Some of the things are already done by the beneficiaries, but they might need just some final inputs, especially when it comes to money and budgets. We also provide input how and what needs to be budgeted for what processes. So I think this is a very comprehensive and coherent approach what we do.
During the implementation of the action, the project supported hundreds of investigations. Before and after, cases were filed at judiciary authorities at the request of the beneficiaries. Figures are important as they indicate the dimension of the criminal phenomena and the unflinching determination to counter them. It is, however, important to carry out investigations that are consistent with the threat assessments drafted and are in line with an holistic approach to dismantle transnational criminal organizations. All the results have to be seen as steps to eliminate obstacles to the EU access. In light of the registered achievements, I think it has to be said that it is also thanks to this program that has to be seen as a whole, although implemented in different consecutive phases, forces that drive criminal actions will be less sustainable over time. Measures that has been adopted and issued at regional level to prevent and counter criminality are consistent with the EU's. It is, however, important to always considering the need to keep striving for international cooperating systems. Also eliminating legislative and organizational weaknesses, bearing in mind the very transforming feature of the criminal scenarios.
Mutual trust, institutionalized cooperation and exchange of information remain crucial elements in the further development of the international fight against serious crime and terrorism across the region and with the EU.